Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to my Sims 4 speedrunning video, or welcome to the channel if you are new here. So in today's video I'm going to be building in the world of Granite Falls, which is the world that we got from the game pack. I nearly said expansion pack then. From the game pack, the Sims 4 Outdoor Retreat, and I'm going to be building a big family lake house. So this rental ends up having 7 bedrooms and 7 bathrooms, and it's built on a 40 by 30 lot. This week, honestly, I just thought it'd be like a nice idea to sit down and build something in the camping world of Granite Falls, as we did just get the Growing Together expansion pack. I've mentioned this before, previously in the past, in a few videos in dribs and drabs, but one of my favourite things to do in summer times in my Sims games is to get them to go on camping holidays together. I just love the world of Granite Falls so much. I think it's because it was, the first world that we got that wasn't like a base game world, because if you're not aware, the Outdoor Retreat game pack was the first ever pack that we got for The Sims 4, and I don't know, I just hold a little bit of a special place in my heart. And when it's summertime in my game, I love getting my Sims to come on vacation here. It's like a massive family. Sometimes if my Sims haven't got like a massive family, I just get them to come on holiday with their mates, and so yeah, I thought it'd be like a nice time to sit down and build a family vacation home that your Sims could come and vacation to. And yeah, I'm really happy with the way it turned out, so I hope you like it as well. But getting on and actually talking a little bit more about the build itself. So coming into this build, I knew that I wanted this house to be a big one. I knew that I wanted it to be just massive and just filled with loads of different bits and bobs and loads of different activities and loads of different rooms. There ends up being, I'm pretty sure, like a good handful of activities for all members of the family in this house, which, by the way, I decorated all the bedrooms to be for at least one life stage. So every single life stage, apart from Object Baby, is accounted for in this rental. So if you're curious, the bedrooms, there is 3 bedrooms that end up having a double bed. So, you know, you could have your Sims parents, grandparents, great-great-grandparents, or just anyone that has a partner and they like to sleep in the same bed. They're accounted for. There is 3 bedrooms that have a double bed. Then there ends up being another room which ends up having 2 sets of bunk beds, so in total it can sleep up to 4 Sims in that room. I decorated that one to be like a kid's room, so in there it's got like a drawing table, it's got a little puppeteer's wardrobe, which I rarely ever use, but I feel like more frequently now I'm starting to use it a little bit more, because I've kind of reminded myself recently that we actually have like a little puppet station that kids can do in the game. But yeah, that's in the kids room. There is also a toddler room as well, which has 2 toddler beds in, and the last room in this house ends up being a little infant's nursery, so infants are also accounted for in this build. At one point when I was decorating the nursery, I was debating placing down one of the cribs that babies would sleep in, just so then it would literally be every single life stage is accounted for in this house. But then I decided to go against it purely for the reason of, I'm pretty sure you can't actually bring object babies on vacation with you. Or am I just thinking this incorrectly? But I'm pretty sure when your Sims go on vacation and there is an object baby within the household, they just completely disregard the kids even there, and your Sims can go on a camping holiday, or they can go to Selvadorada, go and explore the jungle, and the baby it goes to daycare, or like sometimes it just stays at home. And so yeah, I didn't end up adding an object baby crib into this house. But if I'm completely wrong and it is something that you can actually do, like bring the baby with you, then it won't be much hassle. You could just pop a little crib into the nursery or maybe into the toddler's room or something, and yeah, then all life stages should be accounted for. But then, as well as the bedrooms, it ends up being an absolutely colossal activity room upstairs, which initially I was going to make into the 8th bedroom, but then I decided against it just because I felt like we had enough bedrooms for all different types of Sims from all different ages. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to make it into an activity room. That way I can squeeze in more things and like more gameplay activities. So in the little activity room, there ends up being a ping pong table, a darts board, also ends up being one of the activity tables, you know, where your Sims can sit down and like play cards or don't wake the llama or like symbols. There is one of them in there. There ends up being, I think, 2 of them in total on this lot. There is one inside and then I think one outside, because initially I placed one outside onto one of the balcony areas, but then when I was decorating one of the activity rooms inside, I was thinking, yeah, but what about if it rains, like, and you want your Sims to play it? I don't want your Sims to have to go outside. Say if it's a thunderstorm, that's like the worst case scenario. So I thought I'll add one into the inside as well. Ends up being in the activity room. As well as that, there ends up being a little home office. There is just, honestly, there is so much for your Sim to do. I've really tried to cram as much things, as many different activity and skill building items into this build and just try and make sense. And Yeah, but anyway, enough of that, and actually getting back and talking about the actual building process and also what I'm doing right now. So you can see that I've already come in and I've already built the whole main structure of the house. I've already done all the different roofing, all the different wallpapering, and already done some of the window placement. Now, as well as the growing together expansion pack coming out and it being such like a family based expansion pack, and camping is very family based, one of the other reasons why I wanted to do this build this week is because I actually wanted to use these new windows that we got from the new expansion pack. The ones that I'm talking about, you see these really big black windows and they kind of like go into the roof. They're brand new. I haven't used them yet, and I've been wanting to do a build where I could actually use them to their full potential. I say full potential. I mean, I tried my best, but I didn't want to use these in like a suburban world, just because in my mind, even though you do see these windows in like just day-to-day houses nowadays, but I didn't want to use these in like Willow Creek because I don't know, to me it just didn't make much sense. I don't know if that's just a me thing, but I really wanted to use these windows, but I wanted to use it where the landscape around, so like the views from the windows would just be really pretty. And the world of Granite Falls is absolutely beautiful. It's just filled with loads of different like pine trees, there's mountains in the distance, there is a massive body of water which is really blue. It's such a pretty world. And so as soon as I saw the windows, when I first got my hands on the Ground Together EP, I knew that I wanted to use them in like a vacation rental cabin because it was just a perfect fit. And I just have a tendency to use really big windows in my vacation homes that I tend to build in this world. But yeah, they were another source of inspiration for the build, just because I really wanted to use them and I really wanted them to make sense. And to me, to have a house in like Willow Creek, or I was about to say Brenton Bay, but Brenton Bay kind of would make sense. But you know, like a little suburban world, I just feel like they don't make much sense to me. And so I wanted to use them in like a vacation world where it seems a little bit more fancy and it just kind of like makes a little bit more sense, if you get what I mean. But yeah, the windows were also like a little bit of an inspiration point for this build. Now, in terms of the actual structure and the actual shape of the house, I was looking at a picture that I found on Pinterest. I'll find the picture and I will pop it up on the screen now so you can have a little look. I know you're probably looking at the picture and you're looking at the build that is on the screen, you're thinking that doesn't really look too similar. It wasn't more so that I wanted to like try and build the house that I found on Pinterest and put it into the game. It was more so I just liked the structure of the build and I liked all the different bump outs, all the different like the roof line as well. I thought was really interesting. I didn't try and like replicate it or just try and like mimic it and put it into the build. I basically used this picture as my starting point, and then from there I just did what I thought looked good. Instead of having like really big columns at the front where these big windows end up being, I just thought the big windows would be like a perfect little place for them. It also ends up being like a little side porch onto the right hand side. I don't know if you noticed it, but in the picture there's kind of like these two columns and it looks like it's holding up the roof above it, and I really liked that detail. I popped it on into this build. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's got no purpose. Your Sims can't go onto it, but it was just kind of like an extra structure point that just kind of made the outside look a little bit more interesting. I also did a completely different colour scheme to the one in the picture, because the picture that I found on Pinterest, it's got a very orangey wood. Now, I don't know if you've noticed this, if you've been watching me for a little while, I'm not a fan of the orangey wood in the game, or just in real life. It's just not my cup of tea. To be honest, I wish I did like this kind of tone of wood, because we have so many different objects in the game now that have this kind of like orangey wood tone to it, whether it be like columns or fences or just like furniture pieces. Like the amount of different like side tables that we've got in this orangey wood tone, and I never use them because I'm not a fan of it. It's one thing that I'm not a biggest fan of. It's not my kind of cup of tea, and so normally I just try and avoid the orangey wood tone. But yeah, I decided to completely change up the colour scheme as well on the exterior. I decided to use a wallpaper which is from Seasons. It's the one that's got the paneling, and then also one of the new stone wallpapers that we got from the Growing Together EP. I say one of them. We've got one wallpaper, it's kind of like a stone, but it comes in two swatches. One's more of like a red swatch, and then one's more like a grey swatch. I think I used the grey swatch, but yeah, I decided to go like my own little route with the colour scheme and that. But anyway, moving on from that, as you can see, I've pretty much done the whole landscaping of the build. Now, to be completely honest with you, the landscaping for this one was an absolute mare. I had such a hard time trying to figure out how to landscape, and it's something that I reminded myself whenever I build in this world. I always seem to struggle on the landscaping because I want it to feel natural and I want it to feel like it's blending in with like the environment around it. I don't want it to stick out like a sore thumb, so I feel restricted in all the different like landscaping items that I can use. But then when I'm trying to landscape like such a big area that's got loads of different like just terrain plane already plotted down, I just have a really hard time. And so the landscaping took me like 3 or 4 attempts, to be completely honest. It was such a mare to get right, but I mean, I'm happy with it in the end. I use a lot of rocks in the landscaping. That is something that helped me because it was kind of like a nice filler for a lot of empty spaces. And then at the front of the build, you might have noticed it, I use these rocks which are kind of in like a bit of a semicircle motion. I also do end up using them in the back garden as well, so you'll see them in the back garden, but I use them as kind of like a fence of rocks, and it was like a useful thing to have in the landscaping because it kind of like broke it up a little bit. But now, as you can see, I have actually moved over to the back a lot, and I'm going around and just doing a little bit of furniture placement. For the most part, I did decide to cut out the majority of the back garden landscaping, only because you would have seen me initially come in from when I was doing the front garden. I kind of like swiveled over, started doing the back garden, started placing down like the odd tree and bush and stuff. But then I decided to stop recording. I then wanted to really think about how I wanted to landscape it, because doing back gardens in vacation rentals, I really struggle with, because I never know how to fence them off and try and make them feel separated from the rest of the world, but then also make them feel like they're blended in to the natural environment, if you get what I mean. So I did like take a second, and then I started recording again. I started landscaping it, but then something that I noticed once I like sped up the footage and popped it into my editing software, I kept on going back and forth from like the front to the back garden, because I wanted to use the same flowers and the same landscaping items to make it seem like symmetrical. But I was jumping around so much that it was just so, if you could have got dizzy. And so I decided to cut out the majority of the back garden landscaping. But I mean, to be fair, it's pretty much the same as the front garden. It's just different placements of like the different plants and shrubs and stuff. But in the back garden, I basically wanted it to be filled with so many different things for your Sims to do. So in the end, there ends up being an outdoor fireplace, like an actual fireplace, which is attached to the wall, so your Sims can sit out there and they can have a little chit chat. There is also a chess table and then some planters. In the planters, I made a conscious effort to place down harvestables that your Sims can find in the world of Granite Falls. One of my personal favourite things to do whenever I do get my Sims to come on vacation to this world is to get them to run around the neighbourhood and try and find all the different harvestables that are kind of exclusive to the world of Granite Falls. And honestly, the amount of times that I have tried to find like the poison fire leaf or like the poison chamomile, and I cannot find them in the world just because they're maybe out of season or I just can't locate them. Honestly, the amount of times I've zoomed in on them tiny little like floor lamps into the floor, thinking that they're going to be a harvestable, and it ends up being a lamp. I've been so disappointed so many different times in the past, just trying to locate all these different harvestables, because I love the collection element of The Sims 4. Like, trying to complete all the different collections is my cup of tea. That's my kind of gameplay. And so I thought, well, if you're someone like me and you also want to get your Sims to complete all the different collections, and maybe you're having a little bit of a hard time trying to find all the different wild plants, I'll pop down the different harvestables that you can find in the world within the planters. So then if you are struggling, they are on the lot, so you kind of got like easy access to them. One thing I will say though is I did decide not to use the poisonous ones, because with the different harvestables, there's like, say for example the fire leaf, there's like the blank stand fire leaf, but then there's a poisonous version of it, which I don't know the negative buffs. To be honest, I am too scared to get my Sims to actually experiment with it. You know, like the herbalism skill, I rarely ever get my Sims to actually use that skill, but the poisonous version of all the different harvestables, I decided not to include into this build, as I am building like a family lake house and there is room for infants and toddlers and kids and even like pets in this build. I just didn't want to have any toxic kind of harvestables in the lot, and so I did include the harvestables in the world of Granite Falls, but not the ones that could potentially make your Sims like a little bit uncomfortable, if you get what I mean. But then also in the back garden, there ends up being 2 little fire pit areas. So one of them is over here. I use these same rocks that I use in the front garden as kind of like a fence, as kind of like a, basically, yeah, like a fence in the back garden as well. So I use them in kind of like a semicircle motion, and then I try to place down like overgrown grass and different ferns and stuff, trying to make it feel a little bit natural and try and make it blend into the natural environment. There is also a few different like little water buckets around the lot, so your Sims can fill them up with water balloons and like have water fights. There is also like a barbecue area. There is also like a telescope. On one of the upstairs balconies, I decided to make it so there was like a little meditation area. So I popped down a little meditation stool and then also the yoga mat as well, so your Sims can go out there and practice yoga, maybe do like a brain boosting routine or something, and then they can also meditate on the stool. I tried to make it feel very like zen around it, and so what I did is I placed down like some little towels, also placed down some like frocks, and then one of them nice little smelly things. Also then placed down like a debug water bottle to make it look like your Sim has just like popped out a bottle of water from the fridge and they're using it when they're exercising upstairs. But then as well as that, I think that is pretty much it for the back garden. Oh, I also placed down one of them little horseshoe things. I'm not sure what they're called. Hopefully you know what I'm talking about. Where your Sims can throw the horseshoe and it kind of like lands and you're trying to get it so it lands on the stick. Hopefully you know what I'm talking about. It came from the Outdoor Retreat game pack. I placed one of them down to the corner, and then to make it look a little bit more realistic and to make this house feel a little bit more like come to life, I placed down some debug horseshoes kind of like around the edge of it to make it look like Sims have been playing it, but then maybe a few Sims have got a terrible aim and they've just like lobbed like this horseshoe into like the back foliage or something. But yeah, I think that is pretty much it for the back garden. Like I said, I tried to just place down everything that I could that would just make sense to be in a vacation home in this world. But currently you can see that I've actually now popped back to the front like portion of the build, and I'm going around and I'm adding in some of these wooden beams. I say wooden beams, they're not actually something that is going to be like holding up the house. They're not like a support structure. It's just purely for decoration, but I really like the look of it. Basically what I did is I went into debug menu and I found these wooden planks. Now I've used these a ton of times before in the past, and I've used these for so many different things. They're so versatile. I'm pretty sure I've used these as like window frames before, or I've tried to make like custom archways with them, because the ones that I've used you can rotate in any direction. Super handy. Basically what I did is I pulled them out of the debug menu and then I sized them up, and then different ones I rotated in different directions, and then I basically just plopped them on into the roofs, and it looks like it's meant to be like a structure point for the build. It just looks like it's meant to hold up the roof. Like I said, it's a Sims 4. It doesn't. It's just purely for decoration, but I like it, and I feel like in real life you do find like cabins that have that kind of detail. It is also something that was in the picture that I was looking at on Pinterest, but yeah, I just thought it was like a nice little work for detail basically to add to the front of the build. But then quickly you would have just quickly seen me do the front porch area before your Sims walk in through the front door. So it's basically just like another seating area. I placed down some little benches, the ones that I've used are from cats and dogs. I placed down like a little side table, a plant, just like loads of just bits and bobs that I feel like you would find on the exterior of a porch before you go into a house. To be honest, I didn't really know what to put out there, because everything that I would have wanted to place out there I already had like on the exterior of the build somewhere, but it was just like another seating room. There is plenty of seats for your Sims to sit down in this build basically. But now, as you can see, I've now moved on into the inside of the build, and I started off by doing like the front entrance hallway. Now I know what you're thinking, because I thought the exact same thing. This hallway is absolutely massive, and to be honest, I actually had a really hard time trying to fill it out, because I wanted this build to be really cozy. It was like one of my main things coming into the build. I wanted it to be really wholesome, really cozy. I wanted to build like a wooden log cabin in the world of Granite Falls that all members of the family could come on vacation to, but I wanted it to feel really wholesome and just, you know, just comfortable, if that makes any sense, on the inside. But the entrance hallway was absolutely colossal, and I had such a hard time trying to figure out, okay, well, what do I actually place down into this hallway to fill it out nicely without placing anything in the middle of like the floor area. What I ended up doing was I ended up placing down like a little side table on one side, and then on the other side it ends up being like a massive coat rack area. It's got like some shoes. Also placed down some suitcases that we got from the Growing Together expansion pack. I was personally picturing your Sims have just come on vacation, you know, they've just popped off the aeroplane and they've walked in through the front door. They probably are too excited to actually, you know, unpack their suitcases, and so they've just lobbed them down on the floor, and then maybe they've just run outside and they've started, I don't know, doing something by the fire pit, or maybe they've just started doing that little horseshoe game or something. I don't know. I felt like having the suitcases by the front door was quite realistic in like a rental cabin. But yeah, I was really struggling on how to actually fill out the hallway spaces, not only in just like the entrance hallway, but just the hallway spaces in general in this build, because I wanted it to feel like a rental, but I wanted it to feel cozy, but then I didn't want there to be too many personal touches. It was kind of like a bit of a hard medium that I was trying to find, but I mean, I eventually did it, and I do like the way it turned out. But yeah, I did really struggle with the hallways in this house. But currently you can see that I've moved over and I've just started going around and doing the kitchen and then part dining space. Now, something that I use in this kitchen is I used mirrors as a backsplash. Something that I tried to do when I was decorating this house was I wanted it to be like a cozy cabin, but then I didn't want it to be like an outdated cozy cabin, because I feel like there's a very fine line in between it building like a cabin in this world and making it feel like really nature based, and you know, there's lots of wooden furniture and it looks like someone's just crafted the dining room chair. There's that kind of like wooden cabin, but then I didn't want to go towards that kind of route. I wanted to go towards a little bit more of a homey cozy cabin, but it's not outdated. And so throughout the furnishing for the inside of this whole entire rental, I tried to make it feel cozy modern, if that makes any sense whatsoever. But one of the things that I placed down to the kitchen is I placed down these cool kitchen counters and cabinets, and then when I placed them down, I just had the idea to put mirrors as the backsplash. Now let me tell you, in real life, if you're ever renovating your kitchen, honestly, coming from personal experience, I would recommend that you do not do that, because I remember when I was in uni, I had a flat in London, and for some reason the kitchen had like a mirror backsplash, basically the exact same layout that what I've done in this rental, and it was such a mare to keep clean, because you've got to think every single time that you turn the tap on, every single time that you wash up a bowl or a cup or whatever it is, everything gets dirty. And I remember I used to consistently just be scrubbing these mirrors in my previous kitchen, and it was just an absolute hassle. In real life, if you're ever renovating your kitchen, coming from personal experience, never place mirrors behind as your backsplash. But in The Sims 4, it looks really cool, and luckily your Sims don't have to clean the mirrors. And so I decided to place them down into the kitchen. Also in the kitchen, it ends up being a little bit of a dining room, because I end up placing down a table that we got from the Get Famous expansion pack. It's kind of like a glass table, and then I placed down some little base game chairs to kind of match along with it. I also decided to use the Seasons avocado rug, and I hope you know what I'm talking about when I say Seasons avocado rug. It's basically a rug that we got from the Seasons expansion pack, and I remember when it first came out, everyone was calling it the avocado rug, because it's kind of shaped in a weird way like an avocado. But I used it in like the zebra swatch, and that swatch was pretty much what I was talking about in the style of the house that I tried to decorate. It was cozy, but it was modern, because I feel like you would find something with that kind of pattern in a cabin, but then because of the weirdness of the shape of it, it kind of looks modern in some kind of sense. But I placed that down into that room. Also placed down like a shelving unit as kind of like purely decoration. It's also got some bifolding doors which then go out onto the outside like barbecue area with like a massive table. There is so many different seating areas in this build, in terms of for your Sims to actually sit down and just have a chit chat, but then for your Sims to also just sit down and eat like a meal as a family. But then also you'd have quickly just seen me do the actual dining room. So that one was like a more of a formal setting. In there I used these chairs which are from, I think, Eco Lifestyle. I don't think I've ever used these chairs before, because to me, whenever I pull them out on the menu, they're just very cold and really uncomfortable looking. And what I mean, if you want to notice, the chairs that are pulled out, they're completely wooden. They haven't got any kind of like cushion, no kind of comfort. And whenever I pull them out, I look at them myself and I think, personally, I wouldn't want to be sitting on that chair, because it would just hurt your bum after a while. But again, it's a Sims 4, it doesn't matter. And so I placed them down into the dining room. Also placed down some like china cabinets from Jungle Adventure. And then I've been using these curtains throughout all the different rooms in the build. I've used them in this room over here, which is the lounge room, but they're the ones from the Desert Luxe kit. Now these ones are super handy, because basically you can build the curtain for as big or as small as you want it to be. And on the exterior, I really wanted them big windows that I was talking about to really stand out, and I didn't want to have curtains on the interior kind of like blocking the open glassness. Does that make any sense? Do you know what I'm talking about? So I didn't want the curtains to be like overlaying the glass on the inside, because I didn't want to ruin like the bigness of the window. I really hope you're following along with me here. So what I decided to do is I decided to use these Desert Luxe kit curtains, and then basically place them at very, very small on the edge of the window, so it still has curtains, so it still looks like your Sims can pull the curtains closed if they want to. But 9 times out of 10 it's probably going to be left open so all of the light can come through. But then, as you want to notice, and as I kind of briefly mentioned, I did just quickly do the lounge room. So that lounge room ends up having the Desert Lux Kit sofas, and it also ends up having like a fireplace, a TV, just loads of different decorations, try and make it feel a little bit more like an activity room that you can also just sit in and watch TV. I placed down some like puzzle decorations, also placed down a decoration which is from the My Wedding Stories live edit menu, so you can find it in the world of Tartosa, but it basically looks like wood. So I was thinking, when your Sims are maybe sitting around the fireplace, if they want to add on like an extra log or something, there's like extra storage for them. Even though the fireplace that I use does look like it's got some logs in the corner of it, I just thought, well, you're in a log cabin, maybe this cabin doesn't have heating or something, and so you need as many logs as you can to heat up this rental in the wintertime or something. But then, as well as that, you'd have quickly just see me do the little home office. I was debating placing down a computer onto the computer desk in the home office. I ended up not placing one down. I thought maybe your Sims could have like a laptop or something in their pockets, but basically I had an extra room. I was at one point debating making it into a playroom, but then I decided against that, and I thought I'd make it into a home office just in case you have got a Sim that's maybe got a lot of money and they want to come on vacation, but maybe they still want to work when they're on vacation. To be completely honest with you, I think your Sims are going to have to be earning a pretty penny to be able to come on vacation here. I'm not sure what it is off memory, but it's got to be at least $1,000 like a day to come on vacation here for your Sims. I'm not sure what it is per night, you know, like the rental cost, but I'll pop it down into the description box once I actually find out. But yeah, I was imagining that if your Sims do come on vacation here, they probably earn a lot of money, and so they probably have quite a high-end job, and you probably still have to work when your Sims go on vacation. So I popped down like a little computer desk. I was thinking your Sims could bring along a laptop. There is also a fish tank in that room, which at first I was thinking, it's a rental. Like if you go to an Airbnb, realistically, how likely are you to have fish to feed? And so what I did is I placed down the fish tank, but then I placed down like a little side table next to it. I don't know if you noticed, but I placed down this little fish food kind of like decoration, so it's something that looks like your Sims will be able to feed the fish with. It's actually called fish food. We got it from the Get Famous expansion pack. It's in the Clutter menu, I think, or the debug menu, but it's food for fish. I placed it down to the side table, also placed down a little note with a pen, and it looks like the owner of this rental maybe wrote a note saying, like, enjoy your stay, please feed my fish. Next to it is just like the little fish food, like the fish food thing, so your Sims look like they can feed the fish. But yeah, I placed that down into that room, also placed down like a little bookcase, and then also I think a chess table as well. But then quickly you'll just see me do one of the first bedrooms. Now that first bedroom that you saw me do is probably one of my favourite ones. Now, like I've already mentioned, there ends up being 7 bedrooms in this house, and there is 3 bedrooms that have a double bed in, and that is the first bedroom with the double bed. In there I basically tried to make it look like it had built-in wardrobes, and what I basically did is I found this new wardrobe that we got from the Growing Together expansion pack, and originally when you put it out the menu, it's quite small. It looks like it's meant to be like honestly, it looks like it's meant to be like a scarf wardrobe or something. It's absolutely tiny. But I pulled that out and I basically just sized it up so it was so much bigger. I plopped 2 either side and then put a side table in the middle, and then popped a TV in kind of like the wall space, and it looks a little bit like a built-in like cabinet. One thing I will say is I'm not a massive fan of the top portion of the wardrobe, because the actual wardrobe doors, I wanted them to be either dark brown wood, or I wanted them to be black. I use a colour swatch, but the top of it, like the top of the wardrobe, is kind of like a ruddy orangey wood, which we've already established I'm not really a massive fan of. So I did try and cover it up using some shelves, but I just couldn't seem to make it work, and so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to leave it as it is. It's not the worst thing in the world. But yeah, it ends up being one of my favourite bedrooms in this whole entire build. But then I say that, but then I really like the bedroom that is kind of like parallel upstairs towards it. So if you go onto the floor plan, there is another bedroom up there, and I did kind of like a walk-in wardrobe situation, but I basically turned some wardrobes around to make it look like a bigger wardrobe, and I used some kitchen counters and used the like handles of it, and I'm explaining it, you'll see it in a minute. But yeah, it ends up being one of my favorite bedrooms. But now, as you can see, I've now moved over. I just quickly finished up one of the other bedrooms, bedrooms. So the one that you just saw me finish up was another one of the double bedrooms. In there, I was more so thinking it would be like a parent's room, because the way that I did the floor plan, you kind of go through the hallway. If you go to the left, you've got the parents' room. In the middle, you've got the bathroom. And then chuck a right and you've got the infant's room. Because for gameplay, you need to be near the infant, because the infant can wake up in the middle of the night. They need to be comforted. Sometimes they have like a dirty nappy that needs to be changed. And so I thought, if I'm going to have an infant in this rental, I need their bedroom to be close to the parents' room. At one point, I also did debate placing down the infant's crib into the parents' room, but then I did think, well, if your Sims are going on holiday, bless them, I want them to have a little bit of a break. I don't want them to have the infant in the same room, just in case they have got a dirty nappy, or in case they do wake up in the middle of the night and they start like cooing or something. And so I did decide not to do that. But I mean, their bedroom is literally just a few steps away. In here, I tried to make it feel a little bit like a cozy, kind of like woodland bedroom, if that makes any sense. So I used the teddy bear, which is from the Little Campers kit, and it's the one that's meant to be like a Bigfoot, but then I also end up placing down some wall decals that are kind of like foresty, and it kind of matched with the idea that I was going for this bedroom. But in here, ends up having the changing table, also like a little side unit that I tried to make it look like has got like extra nappies, extra like lotions, and I don't know, Suda cream, and all the kind of things that you have when you need to change a nappy. One thing that I was thinking of when I was doing this build is I actually really need to do like a base game build at some point in the near future, because we've got so many new objects from base game, but then we've also got so many new objects from the Growing Together expansion pack, because of course it's an expansion pack, it's the biggest pack of The Sims 4, so you're going to have so many different decorations and stuff. But whenever I do like infants rooms, I never know if something's base game or if something's Growing Together. Like, I don't know if it's like locked behind a DLC or not. And so when I was doing this build, I was really thinking that I definitely need to do a base game build at some point soon. Maybe I'll do one next week. I don't know. I'll see what I'm fancying. But yeah, I actually really want to do a base game build at some point soon, just because we've got so many new base game items now, like so many different little baskets and little like lotions and nappy decorations, and just we've got so many. We've also got, actually on the subject, we've got like little bins that look to be like bears or something, and I think I placed one down into the toddler's room. I'm not sure if I placed it down into the infant's room. It's somewhere in this build, but I thought that was a Growing Together thing, but it's not. It's just a base game thing. But yeah, I feel like I definitely need to do a base game build at some point soon, because we've got so many new objects now, and so I feel like it's quite fitting to do one quite soon. But anyway, getting back to what I'm actually doing right now. So as you can see, I've now moved on to the upstairs portion, and I've started furnishing another bedroom. I've now moved on, but I was furnishing another bedroom, which is kind of like a parent's room again, or maybe you've got like grandparents or something. When I was building this house, I was thinking about my personal gameplay, and sometimes I like to get my Sims to come on holiday with honestly just their mates. Like, sometimes it's nice for your Sims, say if you've got a Sim and they've got a partner and maybe they've got like 2 or 3 kids, if they're friends with another family and they've also got a partner, they've also got kids around like the similar age, I like to get my Sims to go on vacation with all of like their mates and their mates' kids, because then when the kids grow up, they've kind of got like a bond from spending more time with these people, and it's just, I like doing that kind of thing. And so there is multiple different rooms for multiple different parents if you've got like 2 or 3 couples. And then when it comes around to the kids' rooms, I was thinking that the kids could just share. And so you can see that I'm actually now just going around and furnishing at the kids' room. You've got 4 beds in here, so I was thinking maybe like 2 kids are from one couple, and then maybe another 2 kids are from another couple, or it could be like 3 kids from one, or you know there's loads of different situations. But I was just thinking that not exactly one massive family would come on vacation here, but it would be more so a family vacation where multiple friends and family could come on holiday together. I just really like that idea, and it's just something that I like to do in personal gameplay as well. But also I do want to mention, before I get further on into decorating the different bedrooms, because pretty much from here on out I'm just decorating all the bedrooms, and then the last activity room that's kind of got like a ping pong table and stuff in. But before I forget, if you are curious, I have already done one of the bathrooms in case you missed it. Now, like always, I only ever show the furnishing for one bathroom in my builds, just because they're just very repetitive, and there was 7 in this build, and so it was literally just me copying and pasting the same toilet. In all fairness, I did use like different sinks here and there, and I did try and use different clutter items depending on the bathroom, but all around they're very similar bathrooms, but in case you're realising that I'm not speaking about a bathroom, I did just do it downstairs, but I only ever show the furnishing for one just because they're just too repetitive. And also you might be able to see them as I'm spinning the camera around and I'm decorating all the other bedrooms and all the different areas. You might be able to pick up on some of the different bathrooms scattered about because I basically did the bathrooms before I started doing the bedrooms upstairs. But yeah, I did just want to mention that. Anyway, getting back to the build, as you can see, I'm now going around and just doing the toddler's room. So in here, like the infant's room downstairs, I also wanted it to be a little bit more like a woodlands kind of like forest themed room. So I use these wall decals that we got from the Get Together expansion pack, popped them onto the wall. I then found this new little like table lamp, which I think the one that I've used, I believe is from base game, and I popped it on into the middle. It looked like it's got like a little fox in it or something. It's just so sweet. But I placed that in between the two toddler beds. The toddler beds themselves, again, I think they're a base game item. Now, I'm only saying I think because I'm not 100% sure, but I know they're the beds that you can convert from an infant crib. Because if you're not aware, we have this new crib in the game for infants where once infants have aged up and they no longer need it and they need a toddler bed, instead of having to go and buy like a new bed, your Sims can actually just like upgrade it. Like they can ramp it up and they can make it into a toddler bed. So I'm pretty sure the beds that I used in there are from the Sims 4 base game. Also placed down a doll's house in front of the window. Something that I did off camera when I was doing the wallpaper and the flooring is I added in skylights into both this room, which we're seeing me doing right now, and then also the toddler's room. So I don't know if you remember, but at the start of the video when I was placing down the windows, remember that really big like triangular window which kind of inspired this whole entire build? I wanted the light from that window to actually come into the build because I feel like if I was to use it and then not actually make purpose of it, it would have been a little bit, I don't want to seem pointless, but it would have been a little bit just like, well, what's the point? And so what I decided to do off camera when I was doing the wallpapering is I basically decided to add in a ceiling like skylight, so your Sims are still going to get all of the different lighting coming through from them triangular windows, but it's using a skylight rather than having like an open ceiling, because sometimes when you have open ceilings going into the roof line, it can be a little bit tricky with like the wallpaper and stuff. And so yeah, I thought that was a kind of like a nice little workaround. You won't see me do it because I did it off camera when I was doing the wallpapering, but you will see it in the screenshots for both the toddler's room and the room that I just decorated. It ends up having like a little skylight. Also tried to do the walk-in wardrobe that I was talking about, so hopefully you would have catched on to what I was doing. But I basically got one wardrobe and then duplicated it and then flipped it, and then I tried to find like a kitchen cabinet that had some handles to make it look like the wardrobe piece that I'd flipped kind of had somewhere to pull it out, and then I popped that into the wall, pulled it out to make it look like it was actually usable, popped a little mirror onto it, and then yeah, that was pretty much the walk-in wardrobe situation. By the way, if you're curious, the left hand wardrobe works and the right hand wardrobe works, and then also the mirror works. I play tested it all, the whole entire house works. The only one thing that don't work in this house ends up being the wardrobe piece that I flipped, because I mean it is the wrong way around. But other than that, I'm gonna go around and finish this activity room off, and that is basically it. So anyway guys, I'm gonna end this voiceover right here. As always, you can download this build via the gallery. My gallery ID is JessicapieYT, or you can search for the hashtag JessicapieYT or just the hashtag Jessicapie. As always, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and as always, if you do like my content then please do subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in my next Sims 4 speedrunning video. Bye guys.